In 2015, a young girl was suffering from a terrible illness. Because of anorexia, her weight had dropped to only about 22 kilograms. After several months of agonizing struggle, she was found dead. She was then taken to the hospital, where an autopsy was performed to determine the cause of death. At first glance, everything seemed obvious. She had died from critical weight loss due to anorexia. But suddenly, in her stomach, the doctors discovered something that made them look at the situation from a very different perspective. It became clear that perhaps the original cause of death wasn't anorexia itself. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Everything you probably know about Barbie today is that she's just a cute pink toy that every little 10-year-old girl would want to have. But today, we'll talk about some facts and stories that reveal Barbie's darker side. For example, in 1965, about 6 years after the first Barbie doll was released, there came out a special Barbie set called Barbie Division. The set included accessories that she supposedly used in her daily life: scales, a hairbrush, shoes, and one very small book with just a single page. And on that single page, there was only one phrase written: "Don't eat." Years passed, and in 2003 this set ended up in the hands of parents who gave it as a birthday gift to their 13-year-old daughter. Her name was Pippa McManus. She was thrilled with the gift, even though it wasn't expensive, because she was a huge fan of Barbie, especially Barbie's figure. Months went by, and her parents began to notice that she would often leave the house to go jogging, and sometimes she even worked out at home. She started eating less and less, sometimes even skipping family dinners. At first, her parents wrote it off as just typical teenage behavior, maybe thinking she was worried about boys. But after a few more months, it became clear that this wasn't about boys at all. Over the course of 7 months, Pippa lost 24 kilograms. When she was down to just 45 kilograms, she still refused to eat and kept on training non-stop. At some point, it went too far, and she was diagnosed with anorexia, an illness where the body completely rejects food, with a total loss of appetite. With each passing day, her condition got worse. At one point, she no longer even understood where she was. She didn't talk to anyone, and according to her parents, she was basically like a living corpse, 90% anorexia and only 10% Pippa McManus.
I don't think she knew what was going on in her body. It was just...
The anorexia had taken over then.
Don't you notice something strange here? Normally, with anorexia, people lose weight because they stop eating. But she was still obsessed with exercising. Even when she was in a critical state, her mind was fixated on only one thing: burning more weight. Even when she could no longer get out of bed, she would still move her arms around just to burn calories. Her parents finally decided to put her in the hospital. They found the best doctors they could and paid for treatment. She was watched 24 hours a day. After several weeks, tests seemed to show that she was improving. But when they tried to feed her, she resisted. It was as if she was fighting against the very process of recovery. The doctors continued to monitor her closely, even following her everywhere, even to the bathroom, since she could barely walk. Usually they waited right outside the stall, but one day, she didn't come out. When they rushed inside, they found Pippa McManus collapsed on the floor. She was barely moving her arms, not to try to get up, but to burn calories. Even in the very last moments of her life, she was still trying to get thinner. Her autopsy shocked everyone. The doctor who performed it expected to find anything, but not what was actually discovered. Inside her, they found that same tiny one-page book with only one phrase: Don't eat, of course. It's impossible to place all the blame on the doll for the girl's death. But everyone realized who was indirectly responsible: the cult of Barbie's beauty and her body image. It was as if Barbie herself had been telling Pippa what she needed to change about herself in order to be like her. Apparently, Pippa took that phrase far too literally, and why she ate the booklet, nobody knows. Maybe it would have been better if she had eaten a burger instead. Nowadays, Barbie has truly become a symbol of beauty and perfection. Especially after the movie came out, people copy her looks and try to look just like her. Perspective of the multiverse. That in some universe, you actually are Barbie, and your boyfriend is Ken, or the other way around. Just like in Spider-Man's multiverse stories, if our universe is infinite, then there are endless variations of what we could be. Which means there has to be a universe where you are a window, or a rock, or a dung beetle, or Barbie. Most people don't know this, but when the very first Barbie doll was released, not long after, a darker version came out too. She was dressed completely in black and had dark hair, but with one small difference: sometimes she was sold completely naked, so buyers could dress her however they wanted. Barbie was created by Ruth Handler and her husband Elliot, the founders of Mattel. And here's something even stranger. Ever wondered why Barbie and Ken never had kids? Well, Barbie was named after Ruth's daughter, Barbara, and Ken was named after her son. In other words, Barbie and Ken, the couple in the doll universe, are actually brother and sister in real life. And that's not even the strangest thing about this doll family. The first Barbie was released in 1959, when she was portrayed as being 17 years old. Ken came out 3 years later, which technically makes him 3 years younger than Barbie. So basically, Barbie was into younger guys. But that's not nearly the weirdest thing. At some point, Barbie dolls were released with glowing red lights in their chests. At first glance, you'd think they were just little flashlights. A lot of kids' toys had those in the 70s and 80s: Superman, Batman, Spider-Man. And Barbie got one too, but soon after, kids started complaining that the flashlight didn't work, and then people realized it wasn't a flashlight at all. It was a camera, a hidden camera that recorded children as they played. Every time the child pressed the button, it would start recording for about 3 minutes, and then the footage was sent to Mattel. What's even creepier is that this wasn't written anywhere. No instructions, no warnings, nothing. People started to wonder, why would a giant toy corporation need video footage of children playing in their rooms? Was the FBI involved? When this information came out, the FBI was one of the first organizations to express concern, maybe because they wanted the technology for themselves. But the real reason Mattel collected those videos remains a mystery. So if you're ever home alone and planning to do something sneaky, maybe take a look around your room first. Who knows if that Barbie doll in the corner is watching you? But perhaps the strangest Barbie of all was one released around 1970. People started seeing an incredibly creepy doll on store shelves. It looked like a zombie version of Barbie. Mattel never gave an explanation for why they released it. But many kids quickly lost interest in playing with Barbie after that. And there was something else that set this doll apart from all the others: her smell. Yes, her smell. Buyers reported that the doll had the scent of rotting animal flesh. And honestly, the doll itself didn't really look alive either. It seems the manufacturer had deliberately added the smell of death to the material. Hopefully, it was just artificially synthesized. Because if not, then to get that smell, Mattel would have needed access to an actual corpse. You can imagine how disturbing this was as a gift. But even worse was the story of a boy who ended up as part of a viral meme. Not many people know the real truth about what happened to him and his family. They had a YouTube channel, and they started filming prank videos. When their views began to rise, they decided to start pranking their own family. At first, It might sound harmless, but the way they did it was not. Eventually, they took it way too far. One day, they bought that creepy Barbie doll and decided to prank their young son with it. Imagine this: you're home alone at night, scrolling through TikTok. Suddenly, the power goes out in the whole house. You try turning the lights back on, but the breaker has tripped. You walk through the dark house trying to find the switch. Then, out of nowhere, you notice a horrible smell. The smell of death, the exact smell that this cursed Barbie carried. At this point, you don't know it's coming from the doll. You're just alone, in total darkness, with the smell of rotting flesh filling your home. And then, suddenly, the lights flick back on, and standing right next to you, that doll. That's exactly what happened to that boy. His parents, of course, hadn't actually gone away, as they told him they were hiding with cameras, recording everything. They laughed hysterically when the doll appeared. But the prank didn't end with harmless laughter. The boy started screaming and gasping for breath.
Why did you do that? I don't have anything to color with.
Why did you do that? It's just a prank, bro.
He was so terrified, he nearly lost consciousness. But the parents didn't stop filming. They kept laughing and saying it was just a prank. Their whole channel was built on these kinds of pranks, often on their own son. Sure, they later spent the money they earned on buying him toys. But at the same time, they used those very toys to terrify him. So in the end, you have to ask, was it really worth it? And if you ever receive a doll like that for your birthday, do yourself a favor. Keep your nose safe and don't even open the box. There was also another bizarre Barbie version. It wasn't quite as scary as the zombie one, but still unsettling. This one looked like a regular Barbie, except for one detail: she had a large stomach. Not because she was overweight, but because she was pregnant. When you undressed her, inside her body was a removable baby. You could take it out and, in effect, simulate childbirth. Quite the disturbing playtime activity for kids. When you put all of this together, it really starts to feel like Barbie is less a toy and more a cursed object. A doll that Mattel created not to entertain, but to haunt. Of course, the truth is probably simpler. When something reaches a level of worldwide popularity like Barbie, known by nearly every single person on Earth, there will always be people who twist its meaning, inventing strange and terrifying stories around it. After all, if you wanted to, you could make up creepy stories about a jar of pickles. But one thing is undeniable: Barbie remains the #1 doll in the world. Over time, Mattel has made more than $1 billion from this single doll. So while you're lying on the couch, keep in mind somewhere out there, someone's turning a pink toy into millions. Maybe it's time to get up from the couch and earn your millions too. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow.